Blood's still blood, whether it's got fangs or not. Those words would echo in Vincent Rossi's mind every night after that first dawn in the Maine wilderness. But on the night his empire burned, he still believed in simpler truths. Trust no one, kill before you're killed, and never let the bastards see you bleed. Before we start, make sure to hit like and subscribe, and really, I'm curious. Where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. Vincent Rossi sat at his corner table in Rossi's, his waterfront restaurant in Boston's North End, rolling a glass of Barolo between tattooed fingers. The untouched linguine in front of him had gone cold an hour ago. Across from him, Tommy the Knife DeLuca, his consigliere, was mid-sentence about the Irish mob's latest push into Southie when Vincent's instincts screamed danger. The windows exploded inward in a shower of glass and gunfire. Vincent's bodyguard, Marco, took 3 rounds to the chest before he could draw his weapon. Blood sprayed across the white tablecloth as Vincent dove sideways, overturning the table for cover. Bullets tore through mahogany and marble. The restaurant he'd built over 15 years, the throne room where he'd orchestrated an empire, reduced to a war zone in seconds. Tommy dragged him backward through the kitchen, past screaming staff and Vincent's remaining guards returning fire. Move, boss. Now. Behind them, 3 more of his men went down. The air filled with smoke and the copper stench of blood. Someone had betrayed him. Someone on the inside had sold him out to the Irish, and now everything he'd built was collapsing around him. They burst through the wine cellar, down into the old Prohibition tunnels that snaked beneath the North End. Vincent's shoulder slammed against brick walls as they ran, his ears ringing from gunfire, his mind racing through names and faces. Who was the rat? Polly. Big Joe. Someone closer? Have you ever seen a man's entire world shatter in less than 3 minutes? 4 hours later, Vincent found himself in Tommy's black SUV, racing north through pre-dawn darkness toward the Maine border. His hands wouldn't stop shaking, not from fear, but from rage. 15 years of blood and strategy gone. His restaurants raided, his clubs shut down, his crew scattered or dead. This place better be clean, Tommy, Vincent growled, watching Boston's lights disappear in the rearview mirror. Because if this is a setup... It's not a setup, boss. Tommy's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. No one knows about this cabin. It's been in my family for decades. Off the books, off the grid. You'll be safe there until we figure out who the rat is. Vincent wanted to believe him. Tommy had been loyal for 20 years, had been his father's consigliere before that. But Vincent had also learned that everyone had a price, and tonight had proven that walls had ears even in his own restaurant. They arrived at dawn, a weathered cabin deep in the Maine wilderness, surrounded by towering pines and absolute silence. Miles from the nearest town, no cell signal, nothing but trees and the weight of isolation. Tommy helped him inside, did a quick security sweep, then stood in the doorway with the morning light behind him. 1 week, Vincent. Stay here 1 week. I'll handle Boston, find the leak, and then we bring you home. Vincent nodded, though something cold settled in his gut. Tommy's eyes looked wrong. Too calm, too rehearsed. Like a man who'd already made peace with something. Then Tommy was gone, and Vincent was alone with a duffel bag of cash, 3 guns, and a gnawing certainty that nothing about this felt right. He collapsed onto the bed without bothering to remove his boots, every muscle screaming, his mind replaying the attack frame by frame. The windows exploding. Marco's body hitting the floor. The smell of his empire burning. Just as exhaustion began to pull him under, he heard it, scratching beneath the floorboards. Persistent. Desperate. Wrong. Vincent's hand found his Glock instinctively, thumb clicking off the safety. He lay perfectly still, listening to the Maine wilderness breathe around him. The scratching continued, rhythmic, frantic, like something trapped and dying. His first thought, surveillance device. His second, rats. His third, the one that made his trigger finger itch. Tommy had led him into a trap, and whatever was under this cabin floor was the sprung mechanism. Vincent sat up slowly, weapon steady, eyes locked on the bedroom floor. The scratching grew more insistent. Not mechanical. Not rat-like. Something bigger. Something that knew he was there. In 15 years of running Boston's underworld, Vincent Rossi had learned to trust exactly 2 things: his instincts and his gun. Right now, both were telling him the same thing. This safehouse was anything but safe. And whatever was scratching beneath the floor wasn't the only monster hiding in these woods. Vincent didn't sleep. He lay on top of the covers, boots still on, Glock resting on his chest, and stared at the water-stained ceiling as gray dawn light crept through the dusty curtains. The scratching had stopped an hour ago, but the silence felt worse. Heavier, like the cabin itself was holding its breath. He sat up, rolling his shoulders to work out the stiffness. Every instinct honed over 15 years of survival screamed that something was off. The way Tommy's eyes had looked. The isolated location. The convenient timing of everything falling apart at once. Vincent checked his weapons. Glock 19 with 2 spare magazines, a backup .38 snub-nose in an ankle holster, and a switchblade his father had given him the day he made his first kill. All accounted for. All loaded. He moved through the cabin with practiced silence, checking windows and doors, scanning the tree line through gaps in the curtains. Nothing moved outside except wind-bent branches. No tire tracks in the dirt drive except Tommy's SUV from last night. No signs of surveillance equipment. No laser triggers. No tripwires. But the feeling of being watched persisted, crawling up his spine like cold fingers. Vincent was pouring stale coffee from a pot he'd found in the kitchen when the scratching started again. Frantic now, desperate. It was coming from the bedroom, beneath the floorboards. Rhythmic and insistent, like something trapped and running out of time. The hell? Vincent muttered, setting down the coffee mug with a sharp click. He returned to the bedroom, standing in the doorway, listening. The scratching intensified, as if whatever was down there knew he was near. Vincent's mind ran through possibilities. Surveillance equipment wouldn't scratch. Rats would scatter at human footsteps, not get louder. Which left one option he didn't want to consider. Someone or something had been placed here deliberately. A trap. A message. A warning. Vincent grabbed the bed frame and shoved it aside with a metallic screech. Dust motes swirled in the morning light as he knelt, running his fingers along the floorboards. 3 of them were loose, the nails barely holding. He pulled his knife, the switchblade clicking open with a familiar snap, and wedged it into the gap. The board came up easily. Then the second. Then the third. Vincent peered into the crawlspace, and his breath caught in his throat. A wolf pup lay in the darkness below, small body curled into itself, formatted with blood, so much blood it had pooled on the dirt beneath. But it was the eyes that stopped Vincent cold. They glowed amber in the shadows, impossibly bright, like twin flames burning in the dark. Not the reflected light of an animal's eyes. Something else entirely. The pup's chest rose and fell in shallow, labored gasps. Deep claw marks raked across its side, for parallel gashes that had torn through fur and flesh. A vicious bite wound marked its shoulder, the punctures deep and infected. Whatever had attacked this creature had meant to kill it. Vincent's hand instinctively went to his Glock. Rabies. Had to be rabies. The smart play was to put a bullet in it right now, burn the cabin, and get the hell out. But as he raised the weapon, the pup's eyes tracked the movement, not with animal panic, but with awareness. Intelligence. The creature looked at him, and Vincent saw something that shouldn't exist in an animal's gaze. Understanding. Pleading. Recognition that he held its life in his hands. Vincent lowered the gun slowly, his mouth dry. "What the hell are you?" The pup whimpered, a sound so pitiful it cut through 15 years of carefully constructed armor. Vincent thought of being 10 years old, finding a stray mutt in an alley, bringing it home with dreams of having something that was his. His father had beaten him bloody that night, screaming about vermin and weakness, then dragged the dog outside and shot it while Vincent watched. "Mercy is for the weak," his father had said, "and the weak don't survive." Vincent had believed that for most of his life, had built an empire on that principle, had killed men without hesitation, without remorse, because mercy got you killed in his world. But this wasn't a man. This was something small and broken and dying, looking at him like he was its last chance. "Ah, hell," Vincent muttered, holstering his weapon. He reached into the crawlspace, hands surprisingly steady. The pup flinched but didn't snap or struggle as Vincent's fingers closed around its blood-soaked body. It was lighter than he expected, fragile beneath the matted fur. Vincent lifted the creature out carefully, cradling it against his chest. The pup's head lolled, those amber eyes fluttering closed and open, closed and open. Its heartbeat was rapid and weak against Vincent's palm. He carried it to the kitchen, sweeping empty coffee mugs and dusty plates off the table with his forearm. They shattered on the floor. He didn't care. Vincent laid the pup down on the scarred wood surface, then moved quickly to the bathroom. The medicine cabinet yielded basics: hydrogen peroxide, gauze, medical tape, a half-empty bottle of antibiotics. Not enough for wounds this severe, but it would have to do. Vincent had patched up bullet holes in back alleys with less. He worked methodically the way he'd been taught in the army before the Mafia, before Boston, when he was just a kid who thought he might make something decent of himself. He cleaned the claw marks first, the peroxide foaming pink as it hit torn flesh. The pup shuddered but didn't cry out. Vincent applied pressure with gauze until the bleeding slowed, then wrapped the wounds tight. The bite on the shoulder was worse. Deep punctures that had started to fester. Vincent flushed it with peroxide, packed it with antibiotic ointment, and bandaged it as best he could. The whole time, the pup watched him with those impossible eyes, never looking away from his face. "Stay still," Vincent muttered, finding an eyedropper in a kitchen drawer. He filled it with water from the tap, then carefully squeezed drops into the pup's mouth. The creature swallowed reflexively, throat working, tongue lolling. As Vincent worked, details nagged at him, things that didn't add up. The pup's paws were huge, disproportionate to its body, like it would grow into something much larger. Its teeth, visible when it panted, seemed too sharp, too developed for something this young. And the way it watched him, calculating, aware, following his every movement with predatory focus. Vincent told himself it was exhaustion, paranoia. 24 hours ago, he'd been fighting for his life in Boston. Now he was alone in the wilderness, patching up a wounded animal. Stress did strange things to perception, but he couldn't shake the feeling that this creature was more than it appeared. When he finished, Vincent gathered the pup in his arms, still wrapped in bloodied gauze, still watching him with those burning amber eyes, and carried it back to the bedroom. He made a nest of blankets in the corner, layering them thick, then placed the pup down gently. The creature curled into itself, shivering despite the blankets. Vincent grabbed the room's only chair, a rickety wooden thing that had probably been here since the 70s, and dragged it to face the corner. He sat down, Glock resting in his lap, and kept watch. Outside, the Maine woods were silent except for wind moving through the pines. No birds. No animals. Nothing but the whisper of branches and the dying gasps of the impossible creature in front of him. Vincent's phone sat dead on the nightstand. No signal out here anyway, and no way to contact Boston. No way to call Tommy for answers. No way to know if his crew was alive or dead, if his empire still existed or had burned to ash. He was alone. Truly alone for the first time in 15 years. Vincent Rossi had survived assassination attempts, federal investigations, and 15 years in Boston's underworld. He'd killed his first man at 19, built an empire at 25, and become Boston's most feared boss by 30. He'd faced down rival gangs, dirty cops, and federal agents who wanted him dead or buried. But as he watched that impossible creature breathe in shallow gasps, its amber eyes flickering like dying embers in the dim light, he realized he'd just entered a war he didn't understand. And in Vincent's experience, the wars you didn't understand were the ones that killed you. Vincent woke to silence. The wrong kind of silence. His eyes snapped open, immediately cataloging his surroundings. The chair beneath him. The Glock that had slipped from his lap to the floor. Morning light streaming through the window in golden shafts, illuminating dust motes that danced like tiny ghosts. And the corner where he'd left the dying wolf pup, wrapped in blankets. Empty. Vincent was on his feet before his conscious mind fully processed the absence, weapon retrieved and ready. His heart hammered against his ribs as his eyes swept the bedroom. The nest of blankets lay undisturbed, still indented with the shape of the pup's small body. But no blood, no fur, no creature. Then he saw the trail, dark droplets leading from the blankets to the far corner of the room, behind the old dresser. Vincent moved silently, every sense on high alert. He'd cleared rooms in Southie, kicked down doors in the North End, walked into ambushes and walked out alive. But his hands trembled slightly as he rounded the dresser, and what he found there stopped his heart completely. A child huddled in the corner, naked, maybe 8 years old, knees drawn to his chest, small arms wrapped around shivering legs. The same amber eyes that had burned in the wolf pup's face now stared out from a human child's face, glowing with that same impossible light. The same wounds marked his body, for parallel claw marks raking across his ribs, blood seeping through, and the vicious bite on his shoulder, purple and infected. Vincent's mind rejected it, refused it. This wasn't possible. Couldn't be possible. People didn't just. But the blood was real. The wounds matched perfectly. And those eyes, God, those eyes were the same. Don't move. Vincent's voice came out hoarse, his Glock rising automatically, trained center mass on the child. Don't you fucking move. The boy flinched, pressing himself harder into the corner. But those amber eyes never left Vincent's face. He didn't speak, didn't cry out, just stared with an intensity that shouldn't exist in a child. Calculating. Aware. Terrified but not panicked. Vincent's training kicked in, assessed the threat, determine if this was real or hallucination. He glanced around the room, checking for signs of gas leaks, carbon monoxide, anything that could explain what he was seeing. He'd been exhausted, sure, but not drunk, not high. The coffee had been stale but not drugged. The cabin showed no signs of tampering, which left only one explanation. What he was seeing was real. Christo, Vincent breathed, lowering the gun slightly. His mind raced through possibilities, each more impossible than the last. Shapeshifter. Witch. Some kind of government experiment? Nothing made sense. He tried Italian first, his grandmother's tongue, the language of his childhood. Ci sei. Cosa sei. The boy didn't react. Vincent switched to English, keeping his voice level despite the chaos in his head. What are you? How did you? The child flinched at the loud sounds, eyes squeezing shut for a moment before opening again. Vincent forced himself to take a breath, then another. Slow down. Think. This was a kid, or something that looked like a kid, wounded and terrified. Vincent grabbed a blanket from the bed with his free hand, keeping the gun trained with the other. He tossed it toward the corner. Cover yourself up. Small hands reached out, pulling the blanket in quickly. The child wrapped it around his shoulders, but his eyes never broke contact with Vincent's. That stare, too old, too knowing, made Vincent's skin crawl. Finally, in broken English with an accent Vincent couldn't place, the boy spoke. Please, don't hurt. Vincent's finger eased off the trigger. I'm not gonna hurt you. But you need to tell me what the hell is going on. The boy's shoulders relaxed fractionally. Name. Ash. Ash. Vincent nodded slowly, holstering his weapon but keeping his hand near it. Okay, Ash. Where did you come from? The woods. The boy's voice was small, fragile. Running. They killed Mama. Who killed her? Bad wolves. Rogues. Ash's eyes glistened with tears that didn't fall. They hunt me. They want kill me too. Vincent studied the kid's face, looking for signs of delusion or trauma-induced fantasy. He'd seen enough broken people to recognize when someone's mind had snapped. But Ash spoke with a clarity that suggested he believed every word, or worse, that every word was true. Then Ash tilted his head, nostrils flaring slightly as he inhaled. You smell like metal and smoke. Like the city. You're far from home too. Vincent froze. He hadn't told the kid anything about himself. Hadn't mentioned Boston or the restaurant or any of it. How do you know that? I can smell it. On your skin. In your clothes. Ash's amber eyes seemed to glow brighter. You run from bad men. Like I run from bad wolves. The hair on Vincent's neck stood up. You're telling me you can smell where I'm from? Ash nodded. And you're a... Vincent couldn't even say it. The words stuck in his throat. Too ridiculous, too impossible. Werewolf. Ash said it simply, like admitting to being left-handed. My mama was alpha. My papa. I don't know. Maybe dead too. Vincent laughed, a short, bitter sound with no humor in it. Kid, I don't know what you've been through, but werewolves aren't real. You're hurt, you're traumatized, and you need help. But I need you to stop. You want proof. Ash's voice was suddenly stronger, challenging despite his small frame. I show you. No, I don't need you to. But Ash was already moving. His eyes flared bright amber, glowing like coals in the dim corner. Then his face contorted, bones cracking with sounds that made Vincent's stomach turn. The boy's back arched, body convulsing, and Vincent stumbled backward as Ash's form rippled and shifted. Bones snapped and reformed. Skin sprouted fur. The child's face elongated into a muzzle, teeth growing sharp and white. Within seconds, impossible, horrifying seconds, the wolf pup collapsed on the floor where the boy had been, panting and whimpering, the same wounds visible through matted fur. Vincent's back hit the wall. His Glock was in his hand again. He didn't remember drawing it. His worldview, everything he'd built his understanding of reality on, shattered like the windows of his restaurant under gunfire. He'd seen men tortured until they begged for death. He'd killed his first man at 19, watched the light leave his eyes. He'd done things that would haunt normal people for lifetimes. Things that had earned him the nickname the Reaper on Boston streets. But this was impossible. Yet it was happening. Right in front of him. Real and undeniable. Vincent forced himself to breathe, to think past the shock. If this was real, if werewolves existed, then everything changed. What else was out there? What other myths walked the world in secret? And more importantly, what did it mean that one had ended up under his bed? The pup whimpered, trying to lift its head and failing. Vincent holstered his weapon with shaking hands. Whatever this was, whatever Ash was, he was still wounded. Still dying if Vincent didn't help. Okay, Vincent said quietly, moving forward slowly. Okay. I believe you. He approached the pup carefully, kneeling beside it. The creature, Ash, looked up at him with those amber eyes, and Vincent saw exhaustion there, pain, and something like gratitude. He checked the bandages, rewrapping where they'd come loose during the transformation. He brought water in a bowl, and the pup lapped weakly at it. After a few minutes, the bones began cracking again. Vincent watched, fighting nausea, as the pup's form rippled and shifted back to human. Ash lay on the floor, naked and shivering, his small chest heaving with effort. "That hurts," Ash gasped. "When I'm weak. Hurts more." Vincent grabbed the blanket, wrapping it around the boy's shoulders, then pulled an old t-shirt from the dresser, something Tommy must have left years ago. He helped Ash into it. The shirt hung like a dress on the small frame. "Stay here," Vincent ordered, then went to the kitchen. He found bread that hadn't gone stale yet, canned soup in the cupboard, crackers. He heated the soup on the ancient gas stove and brought everything back on a tray. Ash ate like he'd been starving for days, which Vincent realized he probably had been. Between bites, in broken fragments that Vincent had to piece together, the story emerged. Werewolves existed. Had existed for centuries, maybe longer. Ash's pack, the Silverbloods, were ancient, powerful, one of the old bloodlines. They lived in secret, had treaties and territories, codes and laws. But rogues, werewolves who rejected pack law, had been growing in power. They'd attacked the Silverblood compound, killed Ash's mother while she tried to protect him. "Mama said run," Ash whispered, clutching the soup bowl like a lifeline. "Said find the Safehouse. Said someone would help. She knew they would kill her." Vincent felt something twist in his chest, an emotion he'd thought he'd buried years ago. "Where's your father?" "I don't know. Maybe dead. Maybe alive." Ash's eyes filled with tears that finally spilled over. Everyone scattered. "I ran for 3 days. Couldn't stop. They followed. Always followed. And you ended up here," Vincent said slowly, understanding dawning. "You ended up under my bed." Ash nodded. "This place. Pack knows this place. Mama said it was safe. Said the humans here." He looked at Vincent with those ancient eyes in a child's face. "She said the humans here keep secrets too." Vincent's blood ran cold. The cabin wasn't random. Tommy hadn't chosen it because it was isolated. He'd chosen it because it was connected to the werewolves, to their world, to whatever secret arrangement existed between his organization and these creatures. Tommy knew, Vincent said, more to himself than to Ash. "My consigliera. He knew about you. About all of this." Before Ash could respond, his head snapped toward the window. His nostrils flared, pupils dilating until they nearly swallowed the amber irises. Every muscle in the small body went rigid. "What is it?" Vincent was already moving, hand on his weapon. "They found me," Ash whispered, voice tight with terror. "Who?" "The hunters." Vincent moved to the window, staying to the side, and peered through the dusty glass. Through the trees, he saw movement. 3 figures approaching the cabin in a spread formation. 2 coordinated. 2 tactical. They moved like soldiers or like predators. Vincent's jaw tightened. He'd been in Boston less than 48 hours ago, running his empire, believing he understood how the world worked. Now he was in a cabin in Maine with a werewolf child, watching something supernatural close in for the kill. But some things were universal. Vincent understood threats, understood violence, understood that when someone came for what was yours, you made them regret it. Vincent Rossi clicked off his gun's safety, the sound sharp in the silent cabin. He didn't know what was coming, didn't understand the rules of this new world he'd stumbled into. But he knew one thing: nobody was taking this kid. Not on his watch. Vincent moved with practiced efficiency. This was his element. Threat assessment. Defensive positioning. Violence as a last resort, but always ready when needed. 15 years in Boston's underworld had taught him how to turn any location into a fortress, even a falling-apart cabin in the middle of nowhere. He grabbed Ash by the shoulders, lifting the boy to his feet. Bathroom. Now. But I can help. You can barely stand. Vincent propelled him toward the cabin's only interior room, a cramped bathroom with no windows, thick walls. Stay quiet. Don't come out no matter what you hear. Understand? Ash nodded, eyes wide with fear that made him look even younger than 8. Vincent shoved him inside and closed the door, then moved through the cabin, checking sight lines and escape routes. 3 hostiles approaching. Limited ammunition. Unknown capabilities. The odds were shit, but Vincent had worked with worse. Through the front window, he watched them emerge from the tree line. 3 men, mid-30s to mid-40s, dressed in khaki and dark green like park rangers or game wardens. Official-looking badges glinted on their chests. But Vincent's instincts screamed wrong. The way they moved. Too smooth, too coordinated, spreading out in a tactical formation that surrounded the cabin. Predators, not bureaucrats. Vincent positioned himself behind the door, Glock held low and ready, obscured by the frame. His heart rate was steady, his breathing controlled. This was familiar territory. Men coming to kill him. Negotiations before violence. The same dance he'd done 100 times in Boston. The knock, when it came, was polite. Professional. Hello? Anyone home? A deep voice. Friendly but authoritative. Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. We're tracking a wounded wolf in the area. Need to ask you a few questions. Vincent cracked the door open, keeping the gun hidden behind his back, barrel pointed at the floor. The lead man stood on the porch, mid-40s, rugged face with 3 days of stubble, eyes that were a shade too pale and lingered a fraction too long. He smiled, but it didn't reach those eyes. Help you? Vincent kept his voice flat, uninterested. Sorry to bother you, sir. I'm Officer Cade. He gestured to the 2 men flanking the cabin's corners. We've been tracking an injured wolf, young one, probably rabid. Trail led straight to this property. You see anything unusual last night or this morning? Haven't seen any wolves. Just got here yesterday. Been sleeping. Vincent didn't blink, didn't shift his weight. He'd lied to cops, federal agents, and rival bosses who'd gut him for showing weakness. This was nothing. Cade's smile widened slightly. Mind if we take a look around? Just a quick sweep to make sure the animal didn't den up under your cabin or in your crawlspace. Rabies is serious business out here. You got a warrant? The three men exchanged glances. Quick, coordinated. Then Cade's smile shifted, becoming something else. Wrong. This isn't the city, friend. Out here, we don't need warrants for wildlife threats. Public safety supersedes property rights when we're dealing with potentially rabid animals. One of the other hunters, younger, built like a linebacker, took a step toward the door. Vincent felt his finger slide to the Glock's trigger guard. I said no. Vincent stepped outside, forcing them back, pulling the door shut behind him with his free hand. He kept his body between them and the cabin, guns still concealed but ready. Now get off my property before this gets ugly. The three men didn't move. They stood there, utterly still, watching him with that same wrong intensity. Then Cade tilted his head, a gesture too animal, too fluid, and his nostrils flared as he inhaled deeply. You're bleeding, Cade observed, his pale eyes dropping to Vincent's shoulder where the pup's claws had raked him during the rescue. Fresh wounds. Defensive marks. Almost like something with claws got at you. Vincent's jaw tightened. He'd bandaged the scratches, but blood had seeped through his shirt. Caught it on a nail. Old cabin, hazards everywhere. Cade inhaled again, deeper this time, his entire body focused on the scent. Funny thing about nails. They don't smell like fear. Like adrenaline. Like, his eyes locked onto Vincent's. Like pack. The air between them shifted, tension crackling like electricity before a storm. The other two hunters moved closer, flanking Cade, their faces losing any pretense of civility. Then Cade's eyes flashed yellow, bright, unnatural yellow that glowed in the morning light. We know you have the pup, Cade said quietly, his voice dropping an octave. Give him to us and we let you live. You can walk away from this, human. Go back to your city. Forget what you've seen. Nobody has to die today. Vincent's hand tightened on the Glock's grip, thumb disengaging the safety behind his back. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't insult my intelligence. Cade took a step forward, and Vincent caught the scent rolling off him. Something wild and wrong, like wet fur and old blood. We can smell him inside. We can hear his heartbeat through the walls. You're human. You don't understand what you're protecting. That boy is dangerous. Unstable. He needs to be put down before he hurts someone. Vincent's mind raced, weighing options. These weren't men, or not entirely. They were what Ash was. Stronger, faster, probably able to tear him apart if this went south. But Vincent had never backed down from a fight in his life, and he wasn't about to start now. Maybe I don't understand. Vincent's voice was cold, flat, the voice that had made grown men in Boston confess their sins before he pulled the trigger. But I understand a threat when I hear one. He brought the Glock up in one smooth motion, leveling it at Cade's chest. 15 rounds. 3 targets. Not great odds, but he'd make them count. The hunters laughed. All 3 of them, a sound with no humanity in it. Bullets won't stop us, Cade said, spreading his arms wide, inviting the shot. We're not like the gangsters you're used to dealing with, Mr. Rossi. Yes, we know who you are. Boston's big bad wolf, running scared in the woods. Ironic, really. Vincent's jaw clenched, but his aim didn't waver. These aren't regular bullets. He was lying. They were standard hollow points, nothing special, but his voice carried the absolute certainty of a man who'd bluffed his way out of worse situations. Let them wonder. Let them hesitate. Cade's smile faltered slightly. His nostrils flared again, trying to scent the lie. Silver. Guess you'll find out if you don't walk away. For a moment, they stood frozen. A Mexican standoff in the Maine wilderness, human and monsters sizing each other up. Then Cade's expression shifted, becoming almost reasonable. Let's try this differently. His voice smoothed out, diplomatic. The pup is pack property. He's worth nothing to you. But to us, to his family, he matters. That boy murdered his own alpha, his own father. Lost control during a shift and tore out his throat. He's rabid, dangerous, unstable. Pack law demands he be put down before he kills again. Vincent thought of Ash's terrified face, the guilt and pain in those amber eyes. The story didn't track. The kid was traumatized, not violent. Running from something, not toward it. If he's so dangerous, Vincent said carefully, why do you want him alive? Why hunt him across 3 states instead of just letting him run? Cade's expression hardened, the mask slipping for just a second. Who said anything about wanting him alive? The other 2 hunters tensed, muscles coiling like springs. Vincent saw it in their eyes, the decision to stop negotiating to start killing. His finger moved to the trigger, ready for what came next. Then, from inside the cabin, came the sound of shattering glass. A crash, and Ash screaming, high and terrified and inhuman. Vincent's attention split for a fraction of a second, just long enough to glance toward the door. The hunters moved with inhuman speed, closing the distance in a blur. But Vincent's instincts were already firing, his body already in motion. He threw himself backward through the door, squeezing the trigger 3 times in rapid succession. Crack, crack, crack. The lead hunter, the linebacker, took all 3 rounds center mass and went down, blood spraying from his chest. The other 2 ducked and rolled, moving too fast, too fluid. Vincent slammed the door shut and threw the deadbolt just as something heavy crashed against it from outside. He ran to the bedroom. Ash lay on the floor, convulsing, his body shifting involuntarily between forms. Boy to wolf, wolf to boy, bones cracking and reforming in a nightmare of transformation. Blood poured from the reopened wounds, soaking through bandages. No, no, no. Vincent dropped to his knees, trying to hold the kid still, but Ash's body was rigid with pain and terror. Outside, something roared, deep and primal, nothing like a human voice. The walls shuddered as something massive slammed into them. Once, twice. Wood cracked and splintered. Vincent looked at the dying kid, then at the disintegrating door, then at the windows that would shatter any second. 2 choices. Stand and fight creatures he didn't understand, or run with a dying kid into woods filled with monsters. Both options sucked. So Vincent chose the third option, the one nobody expected. He scooped Ash into his arms, grabbed his go-bag with the other hand, and ran straight for the back wall of the cabin. The old structure was rotted, weakened by decades of Maine winters. Vincent lowered his shoulder and crashed through it like a linebacker, wood exploding outward in a shower of splinters. They hit the ground hard, Vincent rolling to protect Ash's body. Then he was up and running into the forest, leaving the roaring hunters and the burning world behind. Vincent crashed through the forest, Ash's small body clutched against his chest, the go-bag slamming against his back with each stride. Behind them, the cabin exploded in a shower of splintering wood as something massive tore through what remained of the walls. Then came the howls, deep, primal, nothing human about them, echoing through the pines like sirens from hell. Vincent's lungs burned, branches whipping his face, roots threatening to trip him with every step. He'd done 2 tours in Afghanistan before Boston, before the Mafia, when he still thought he might make something decent of himself. That training kicked in now. Move fast, think faster, survive at any cost. Water. Ash gasped against Vincent's shoulder, barely conscious. Find water. They lose scent. Vincent's eyes scanned the terrain as he ran. Downhill. Water always ran downhill. He adjusted his trajectory, pushing through dense undergrowth, ignoring the pain in his shoulder where the rogue's claws had torn flesh. Behind them, trees snapped like matchsticks. They were coming fast. He heard it before he saw it, the rush of moving water. A stream, maybe 20 feet wide, cutting through the ravine ahead. Vincent didn't hesitate. He splashed into the cold water, gasping at the shock, then turned downstream, using the current to mask their trail. His boots slipped on moss-covered rocks, but he kept moving, kept Ash above water. 50 yards downstream, he spotted it, an overhang in the ravine wall, hidden by hanging roots and undergrowth. Natural cover. Vincent scrambled up the muddy bank and ducked beneath the overhang, finally setting Ash down on relatively dry ground. His hands shook as he checked his Glock. 8 rounds left. 8 bullets against God knew how many werewolves. The math didn't work. It never had. Ash lay curled on his side, his small chest heaving, blood seeping through the makeshift bandages. His eyes were half closed, amber barely visible through the slits. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "This is my fault. You should leave me." "Shut up." Vincent pressed his back against the rock wall, listening for pursuit. The howls had stopped, which somehow felt worse than hearing them. "Tell me what we're dealing with. Who's Cade? Why does he want you dead?" Ash coughed, blood flecking his lips. Cade was enforcer for the old council, but he doesn't believe in the old ways. Doesn't want balance. Balance between your world and ours. Ash's voice was getting weaker. Silverblood Pack kept the peace. Hundreds of years. We stayed hidden, protected our territories, made sure no one exposed us. Made deals with humans who could keep secrets. Like your people. Vincent's jaw tightened. Tommy. The cabin. 20 years of lies. Keep talking. Cade wants war. Wants to destroy the alpha bloodlines, expose our kind, let chaos decide who rules. Ash's eyes found Vincent's. If humans know about us, really know what happens. Vincent didn't need to think about it. Panic. Fear. Then extermination. Governments would mobilize. Militaries would hunt you down. It'd be a genocide. Cade thinks werewolves would win that war. Thinks we're stronger, better. He's wrong. We'd all die. Both worlds would burn. A twig snapped somewhere in the forest above them. Vincent's finger moved to the trigger. Why you specifically? Why hunt one kid across 3 states? Ash hesitated, and Vincent saw something in those ancient eyes. Shame, maybe. Or guilt. Because I'm the alpha's son. The heir. If I die, the bloodline ends. The silver blood pack falls apart. No one left to enforce the old laws. Your father is probably dead. Cade made sure of that first. Ash's voice cracked. I'm the last one. If I die, Cade wins. The balance dies with me. Vincent's mind raced through scenarios, each one worse than the last. This wasn't a mob war. This was a supernatural coup with stakes that went far beyond his understanding. He could leave Ash here, disappear into the wilderness, find his way back to Boston, if Boston even still existed for him. Cut his losses and run. It's what his father would have done. What any smart operator would do. But Vincent thought about his brother, 12 years old, disappearing into these same woods 20 years ago. The camping trip that destroyed his family. The guilt Vincent had carried every day since, wondering if he could have saved Roan, if he'd just been faster, braver, better. He looked at Ash, 8 years old, bleeding, terrified, alone in the world except for a mobster who had no business being anyone's hero. Loyalty's the only code I've got left, Vincent muttered, more to himself than to Ash. And I don't break my codes. A growl rumbled from above the ravine. Low, hungry. Vincent moved, positioning himself between Ash and the threat. 2 wolves emerged from the tree line, massive and wrong. Their eyes glowed yellow in the shadows, muscles rippling beneath matted fur. One was gray with black streaks, the other rust-colored with scars across its muzzle. Vincent fired 3 times. The bullets hit, he saw blood spray, but the wolves barely slowed. They split up, flanking, moving with terrifying intelligence. The gray wolf lunged at Ash. Vincent threw himself sideways, taking the impact meant for the kid. Claws raked across his already wounded shoulder, tearing through shirt and flesh. Vincent screamed, firing point-blank into the wolf's face. The creature yelped and recoiled, blood pouring from its ruined eye. 5 rounds left. The rust-colored wolf circled, yellow eyes locked on Vincent, calculating, waiting for an opening. Vincent's hand fumbled with the go-bag, his shoulder screaming agony. His fingers closed on something metal. His mother's jewelry, the pieces he'd kept from her funeral 6 years ago. Silver cross. Silver chain. He'd never had the heart to sell them or throw them away. Now, desperate and dying, he saw a chance. Cover your ears, Vincent told Ash. then used his knife to break open his spare rounds. 4 bullets spilled onto the ground. He shaved silver from the cross and chain, cutting his fingers in his haste, pressing the silver shavings into the hollow points. Makeshift ammunition. Stupid. Unlikely to work. But desperation breeds innovation. Vincent loaded the modified rounds with bloody, shaking hands. The rust-colored wolf charged. Vincent raised the Glock and fired. The bullet hit center mass, and the effect was immediate and horrifying. The wolf's chest erupted in smoke and flame, like the silver was burning it from the inside. The creature's howl was agony incarnate. It collapsed, convulsing, and then went still. The gray wolf with the ruined eye backed away, snarling, suddenly wary. Vincent had 2 silver rounds left and took aim. Before he could fire, something exploded from the shadows behind the gray wolf. A larger wolf, scarred and battle-hardened, moving with lethal precision. It hit the gray wolf like a freight train, jaws closing around its throat. The 2 creatures tumbled across the ravine floor, tearing into each other with savage brutality. Vincent watched, transfixed, as the scarred wolf dominated the fight. It was bigger, meaner, fought with the efficiency of a trained soldier. Within seconds, the gray wolf's throat was torn out, blood spraying across rocks and moss. The scarred wolf turned, and Vincent saw it clearly for the first time. Old scars crisscrossed its body. Its left ear was half missing. And there, visible through the fur on its flank, was a tattoo. An old Navy anchor, faded but unmistakable. Vincent's brother had gotten that tattoo the summer before he disappeared. Showed it off proudly, even though their father had beaten him for it. Roan. Vincent's voice cracked. Jesus Christ. Roan. The wolf's eyes, blue, human blue beneath the amber glow, locked onto Vincent's. For a moment, intelligence flickered there. Recognition. Then pain, confusion, something that might have been grief. The wolf backed away, muscles tensing. Wait. Vincent stumbled forward, ignoring his wounds. Roan, it's me. It's Vincent. Don't. But the wolf turned and melted into the forest, disappearing like smoke. Roan. Vincent tried to follow, but his legs gave out. He collapsed against a tree, blood loss and shock finally catching up. Ash crawled over, his small face pale. That was your brother, he said quietly. He's back now. Has been for years. Vincent's world tilted. His brother alive. Not dead, not gone, but transformed into something Vincent couldn't reach. 20 years of guilt and grief, and Roan had been here all along. Living, hunting, watching from the shadows. He saved us, Ash continued. That means something in pack law. He claimed you as family. Vincent's laugh was bitter. He ran away from me. Because he remembers you. Because it hurts. Ash's eyes were ancient with understanding. The wolf and the man fight inside him. Seeing you makes that fight worse. In the distance, more howls rose. Cade's pack, still hunting. Vincent forced himself to stand, checking his wounds. The shoulder was bad but not fatal. He wrapped it with torn shirt fabric, then helped Ash to his feet. We can't keep running, Vincent said. They'll track us down eventually. Then what do we do? Vincent thought about Tommy, about the cabin that wasn't random, about deals made in shadows between his world and this one. His blood ran cold with understanding. We need allies. Weapons. Answers. He looked at Ash. Is there anyone who can help us? Ash nodded slowly. There's only one person who can help us now. Who? Your consigliere. He knows about us. He's always known. Vincent's blood ran cold. Tommy had sent him here, not to protect him, but to deliver him straight into the supernatural war. The cabin, the timing, the convenient assassination attempt that drove him north, all of it orchestrated. The question was, whose side was Tommy really on? Vincent and Ash limped back to the cabin as the sun climbed overhead, both of them leaving blood trails in the dirt. The structure looked like a bomb had gone off. Front door hanging by one hinge, walls collapsed, furniture shattered. But it was empty. The hunters had moved on, confident their prey wouldn't return. Vincent helped Ash inside, settling him on the least destroyed couch, then dug through the wreckage until he found his phone. Cracked screen but functional. One bar of signal. Barely enough. His finger hovered over Tommy's number. 20 years of loyalty, of trust, of believing Tommy was the one person in his organization who'd never sell him out. Now he had to know the truth. Vincent dialed, his other hand resting on the Glock in his lap. Tommy answered on the first ring. Vincent, thank God. Are you okay? I've been trying to reach. You knew. Vincent's voice was ice. About the wolves. About this place. About all of it. Silence stretched across the line, heavy and damning. Then, quietly, yeah, boss. I knew. Vincent's grip tightened on the phone. How long? My whole life. Tommy's voice was tired, resigned. My grandfather made a deal with the Silverblood Pack back in the 60s. They needed protection from hunters, developers, people who'd expose them. We needed insurance. Muscle that couldn't be bought or intimidated. It was the perfect arrangement. Two underworlds coexisting, both staying hidden, both staying strong. Vincent looked at Ash, who watched him with those two old amber eyes. So you used me, set me up, fed me to them like bait. No. Tommy's voice cracked with urgency. Christ, no. The opposite. Vincent. The Silver Bloods are dying. Their alpha, Ash's father, has been missing for weeks, presumed dead. Cade's rogues have been picking them off one by one. They're losing this war, and if they fall, Cade exposes everything. Then we all burn. That's not my problem. It is now. They needed someone ruthless, someone who understands war, someone who wouldn't break under pressure. Tommy paused. Someone who could protect the alpha heir long enough to turn the tide. You're the only person I know who could do it. Vincent's laugh was bitter. You could have asked. Could have told me the truth instead of manipulating me like a goddamn pawn. Would you have believed me? Tommy's question hung in the air. If I'd walked into your restaurant and said, "Hey boss, werewolves are real and we need you to babysit one," Would you have done anything except put a bullet in my head? Vincent wanted to argue, but Tommy was right. 3 days ago, he would have called this insane. Would have assumed Tommy had lost his mind or was trying to stage a coup. The assassination attempt, Vincent said slowly. The Irish mob. That was real, wasn't it? The feds were closing in anyway. The Irish saw an opening. But yeah, I used it. Positioned you here at this specific place at this specific time because the pack needed you. Tommy's voice turned desperate. And because we need them. Without their help, Vincent, we're done. Our operations are compromised, our supply lines are cut, the feds have warrants ready. The pack can make all that disappear. But only if we help them first. Vincent closed his eyes, feeling the weight of it all. And if I refuse, if I walk away, then we're all dead. You, me, the crew, the pack, everyone. Cade wins, the world finds out about werewolves, and the chaos that follows destroys everything. Tommy paused. I know I lied to you. I know you have every right to put me in the ground for this. But I'm begging you, boss. Help us. Help them. Vincent looked at Ash. Small, wounded, exhausted. The kid who'd shifted from wolf to boy, who'd lost his mother, who carried the weight of an entire supernatural world on 8-year-old shoulders. Then he thought about Roan, his brother, lost to these woods 20 years ago but alive. Transformed. Watching from the shadows. Loyalty. Honor. Codes that mattered even when the world stopped making sense. What do you need me to do? Vincent asked quietly. The relief in Tommy's voice was palpable. Cade's planning a major move. He's targeting your South Boston warehouse, the one we use for storage, where the pack keeps their supplies. If he takes it, he gets weapons, resources, territorial control. Everything he needs to finish what he started. When? 3 days. Maybe less. You need to defend it, with your crew and whatever silver blood wolves are still alive. Make your stand there. Vincent's mind shifted into tactical mode. I need supplies. Silver bullets, proper ammunition, medical gear, explosives if you can get them. Already arranged. I'm sending Lucia with everything. Lucia. Vincent straightened. Lucia Marchetti was his most trusted soldier. Late 30s, covered in tattoos, meaner than a cornered rattlesnake and loyal to the bone. She knows. I briefed her. She didn't believe me until I showed her video footage from the warehouse security cameras. Then she said, and I quote, "If the boss is fighting monsters, I'm fighting monsters." Despite everything, Vincent felt something like pride. When will she arrive? Tonight. Few hours. Tommy paused. Vincent, I'm sorry. For lying, for manipulating, for putting you in this position. But I'm not sorry for believing you're the only man who can pull this off. Save the apologies for after we survive. Vincent ended the call. Ash had shifted to wolf form, curled on the couch, watching Vincent with those amber eyes. You're helping us, he said. Speaking while in wolf form felt wrong. But Vincent was past questioning impossibilities. Why? Because Tommy's right. We need each other. Vincent stood, wincing at his shoulder. And because I don't abandon kids, no matter what species they are. By nightfall, Lucia arrived in a black SUV loaded with gear. She kicked open the cabin door, saw Ash shift from wolf to human, and didn't even blink. "Tommy briefed me," she said, setting down 2 duffel bags. "Let's get to work." Over the next day, they transformed the ruined cabin into a fortress. Lucia taught Ash how to hide, how to move silently, basic combat principles. Ash taught them about werewolf weaknesses, silver, obviously, but also wolfsbane, which grew wild in these woods, and decapitation. They modified ammunition, packed magazines with silver-tipped rounds, prepared defensive positions. Ash grew stronger by the hour, his wounds healing at impossible speed. By the second night, he was running perimeter checks, his senses far sharper than any human's. That evening, Vincent sat with Ash by the fireplace, one of the few things still intact. The kid shifted to human form, wrapped in a blanket, and asked quietly, "What happened to your brother?" "Really?" Vincent stared into the flames, the memories sharp after 20 years. "Family camping trip. I was 17, Roan was 12. Dad was drunk as usual, and me and Roan snuck off to explore. We heard howling in the distance. Deep wrong. I told Roan to stay put while I checked it out." His jaw tightened. "When I came back, he was gone. We found blood, torn clothes, but no body. Dad said it was a bear attack. The Rangers agreed. But I knew it wasn't." "You've been carrying that guilt," Ash said softly, "thinking you should have protected him." "Yeah." Ash was quiet for a moment, then, "Your brother didn't want to be found. He chose the pack." Vincent's head snapped toward him. "How do you know that?" "Because my father told me. Roan was turned that night, attacked by a young wolf who didn't know better. But instead of dying, he adapted. Embraced it." Ash's eyes glowed softly in the firelight. "He found peace here, Vincent. Peace he couldn't find in the human world. The transformation changes you. You can't go back." "He's been watching me," Vincent said, remembering those blue eyes in the scarred wolf's face. "All these years. Always. He's proud of you. Wishes he could tell you, but the wolf won't let him get too close." Ash smiled sadly. "Maybe after this is over, you can find a way to talk. Just don't expect him to come back. He's ours now." Before Vincent could respond, the radio crackled to life. Tommy's voice, urgent and strained. "Boss, we got a problem. Cade's not waiting 3 days. He's hitting the warehouse tonight. You need to move. Now." Vincent and Lucia locked eyes across the cabin. They weren't ready. Not enough time, not enough ammunition, not enough anything. But they never were. That's how war worked. Ash stood, shifting to human form, determination blazing in those amber eyes. "I'm coming with you." "Like hell you are." Vincent grabbed his jacket. "You're staying here where it's safe." "It's my pack. My fight." Ash's voice carried a steel that hadn't been there before. "You taught me loyalty matters. My people are dying while I hide. I won't do that anymore." Vincent studied the kid's face, seeing something that reminded him of himself at that age. Stubborn, reckless, willing to die for what mattered. Vincent Rossi smiled. Cold, dangerous smile that had made him Boston's most feared boss. The smile that meant someone was about to have a very bad night. "All right, kid," he said, chambering around. "Let's go to war." Night fell over South Boston like a shroud. The industrial district silent except for distant sirens and the creak of rusted metal. Vincent's warehouse sat at the edge of the waterfront. Corrugated steel walls, loading docks long abandoned, windows blackened with decades of grime. A fortress waiting for a war. Vincent, Lucia, and Ash arrived in the black SUV, tires crunching over broken glass and gravel. 6 men waited inside. Vincent's crew, hardened criminals who'd seen everything Boston's underworld could throw at them. They stood in the loading bay, armed with assault rifles and shotguns, faces tight with tension. Big Joe DeMarco, built like a refrigerator with hands that could crush skulls, spoke first. "Boss," Tommy said, "we're dealing with something unusual." But he wouldn't say what. "Watch," Vincent said, nodding to Ash. The boy stepped forward, and in the space between heartbeats, bones cracked and reformed. His small body convulsed, for sprouting, limbs reshaping, until a wolf pup stood where the child had been. Amber eyes glowed in the darkness. The crew went silent. Vincent saw it on their faces. The moment belief shattered and reformed around a new, impossible reality. Sal Benedetti, Vincent's second in command, late 40s, gray at the temples, loyal since Vincent's first year in Boston, crossed himself. "Madonna Santa. Boss, what the hell are we fighting?" Vincent chambered around in his Glock, the sound sharp in the silence. "What's coming isn't human. Silver bullets work. Aim for center mass. If they get close, you're dead. Don't hesitate, don't show mercy, don't try to negotiate." He met each man's eyes. Something old. Something dangerous. But they bleed, and if they bleed, we can kill them. Lucia distributed ammunition. Silver-tipped rounds she'd spent the last day modifying. 2 magazines each. Make them count. We don't have enough for a prolonged fight. They fortified the warehouse with military efficiency. Barricades made from steel drums and shipping pallets. Sight lines cleared. Escape routes mapped. Vincent positioned his men at strategic points. Overlapping fields of fire, no blind spots. Ash shifted back to human form and, wearing clothes Lucia had brought, stood at the center of the warehouse, eyes closed, nostrils flaring. 12 of them, he said quietly. Maybe more coming. I can smell them circling. Vincent frowned. How many should there be for a raid like this? 6, maybe 8. Ash opened his eyes, fear flickering in the amber. Cade brought everyone. This isn't a raid, it's an extermination. Good, Vincent said coldly. Means we can end this tonight. The howls started at midnight, distant at first, then closer, surrounding the warehouse like a noose tightening. Vincent's crew tensed, fingers on triggers, breathing shallow. Then the attack began. Rogues poured from the shadows, moving with inhuman speed. Blurs of fur and muscle and glowing eyes. They came from 3 directions simultaneously, coordinated and lethal. Light them up. Vincent roared. Gunfire erupted. Muzzle flashes illuminating the darkness. Silver bullets tore through werewolf flesh, and the effect was devastating. The first 3 rogues went down screaming, smoke rising from their wounds. But the rest adapted instantly, using shipping containers for cover, moving in unpredictable patterns, exploiting every weakness in the defense. A rogue broke through the eastern barricade, moving so fast it was a brown blur. It grabbed Sal, claws digging into his shoulder, dragging him backward. Sal screamed, blood spraying. Lucia's rifle cracked once. Headshot perfect, the rogue's skull exploding in a spray of blood and silver. The creature dropped, and Sal collapsed beside it, clutching his shoulder where deep puncture wounds pumped blood. "Get him inside," Vincent ordered. "Lock him down." 2 men dragged Sal deeper into the warehouse, into a steel cage they'd prepared for exactly this scenario. They all knew what was coming. The bite would turn him, and when it did, he'd be as dangerous as the things attacking them. Vincent watched it happen, ice settling in his chest. Sal had been with him since the beginning. Now he was infected, transforming, lost. No time for grief. Not yet. Ash shifted to wolf form and launched himself into the battle. He was young, inexperienced, but he moved with speed Vincent had trained into him. Darting, striking, retreating. A rogue twice his size lunged at him, and Ash twisted mid-air, jaws closing on a larger wolf's throat. They tumbled, and when they separated, the rogue lay still. Vincent watched the kid fight and felt something shift in his understanding. Ash wasn't just a victim anymore. He was a warrior. Then the warehouse doors exploded inward, metal shrieking as they were torn from their hinges. Cade entered in wolf form, massive, black-furred, covered in scars that spoke of 100 battles. He was larger than any wolf Vincent had seen, radiating dominance like heat from a furnace. Cade shifted to human form in the center of the warehouse, naked, covered in tribal tattoos that seemed to move in the flickering light, holding a silver machete that gleamed with fresh blood. His yellow eyes locked onto Vincent. "Vincent Rossi," Cade's voice echoed through the warehouse. The great Mafia Boss playing hero. How pathetic. Vincent stepped forward, Glock leveled at Cade's head. "This ends tonight. Take your rogues and leave, or I put you in the ground." Cade laughed, a sound without humor or humanity. "You think you're protecting him? The pup is a monster. He killed his own father to take power. Tore out the alpha's throat during a training session because he couldn't control his animal." Vincent glanced at Ash, who'd shifted back to human form. The kid was shaking his head, tears streaming down his face, terror and guilt written in every line of his small body. "You're lying," Vincent said, but his voice wavered. "Ask him." Cade's smile was cruel. "Ask the precious heir what really happened to the alpha." "It was an accident," Ash sobbed, dropping to his knees. "We were training. He was teaching me to fight in wolf form. I couldn't control it. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to." The words shattered something in the warehouse. Vincent's crew exchanged looks. Even Lucia hesitated, her rifle lowering slightly. Vincent's world tilted. Ash had killed his father. Not murder, but manslaughter. A child who couldn't control supernatural strength, who'd made a mistake that cost everything. The trauma, the guilt, the running. It all made terrible, tragic sense. Still want to protect him? Cade's voice dripped with satisfaction. He's a kinslayer. Pack law demands death. No exceptions. No mercy. Vincent looked at Ash, 8 years old, broken by guilt and fear, carrying a weight no child should bear. He thought about his own sins, the men he'd killed, the blood on his hands that would never wash clean. He thought about redemption and whether it was possible for monsters like them. Kid made a mistake, Vincent said quietly. Doesn't mean he deserves to die. Cade's expression twisted with rage. Then you die with him. The rogues attacked as one, a coordinated assault that hit from every angle. Vincent's crew fought back with everything they had. Bullets, blades, desperate hand-to-hand combat as rogues closed the distance. The warehouse became hell. Blood, smoke, screaming, the stench of gunpowder and burning flesh. Lucia went down, a rogue's claws shattering her leg. She kept shooting from the ground, emptying magazine after magazine, buying seconds with every round. In the steel cage, Sal transformed, bones breaking and reforming, his screams turning to howls. He burst through the cage door, neither human nor wolf, fighting on pure instinct. He attacked rogues and defended Vincent's men in equal measure, lost to the chaos of his first transformation. Vincent fought with cold precision, every shot carefully aimed, every movement calculated. But there were too many. They were being overwhelmed. Cade cornered Vincent and Ash against the warehouse's far wall, machete raised, yellow eyes blazing with triumph. Any last words, Rossi? Vincent raised his Glock, 2 rounds left, knowing it wasn't enough. Then everything changed. Howls erupted from outside. Different pitch, different tone, carrying authority and fury. The warehouse's remaining walls shuddered as shapes poured through every entrance. Werewolves, massive and scarred. But these weren't attacking Vincent's crew. These were tearing into the rogues with savage efficiency. The Silver Blood Pack had arrived. Leading them was a massive gray wolf with eyes like liquid gold. It moved with a grace that spoke of centuries, of power earned through blood and wisdom. The rogues scattered before it, their bravado evaporating. The gray wolf shifted to human form, an older man with Native American features, covered in scars that mapped a lifetime of battles. Long gray hair fell past his shoulders. His eyes, still glowing faintly gold, locked onto Ash with infinite sadness and pride. "My son," he said, his voice carrying over the chaos. Ash's face crumpled. "Papa." Vincent realized the Alpha was alive. Had been alive all along. Cade's expression twisted through shock, rage, and fear in rapid succession. "Impossible. I watched you die." The Alpha stepped forward, and the temperature in the warehouse seemed to drop. "You watched me choose my moment. You thought me weak, broken, ready to be replaced." His smile was cold as winter. "You were wrong." Cade backed away, machete trembling in his grip. "And now, rogue," the Alpha said, his voice carrying the weight of ancient law and absolute authority, "you face judgment." The warehouse fell silent, the kind of silence that comes after explosions, when ears ring and the world holds its breath. Werewolves on both sides froze mid-motion, rogues and silverblood pack alike. Pack law was absolute, older than nations, carved into their DNA through millennia. When an Alpha issued challenge, everything stopped. Cade shifted back to human form, naked and bloodied, gripping his silver machete with white-knuckled fury. "You were weak," he snarled at the Alpha. "Your pack was dying, bleeding out while you clung to ancient laws that don't matter anymore. I did what you couldn't. I made us strong." The Alpha, Nathaniel, Vincent realized, remembering Ash's whispered stories, stepped forward with a calm that was more terrifying than rage. His voice carried through the warehouse, commanding and absolute. "You murdered innocents, destroyed traditions that kept our kind hidden for centuries, sought to expose us to a world that would hunt us to extinction." Nathaniel's golden eyes blazed. "I challenge you, Cade, for leadership of all northeastern packs. Single combat to the death. Let the old ways decide who was right. Pack law invoked. Sacred tradition that couldn't be broken." Vincent felt his crew tense, weapons raised, but he shook his head sharply. "Stand down. This is their fight." Ash tried to run to his father, but Vincent grabbed the boy's shoulder, holding him back. "Don't. If you interfere, you dishonor him." Both men began to shift, bones cracking, bodies convulsing for erupting. Nathaniel became a massive gray wolf, scarred and battle-hardened, eyes still glowing gold. Cade transformed into a black-furred monster, larger than any wolf had a right to be, covered in tribal markings that showed even through his pelt. They circled each other in the center of the warehouse, claws clicking on concrete stained with blood. Vincent's crew watched in horrified awe. This was primal, ancient, something humans were never meant to witness. Cade lunged first, jaws snapping for Nathaniel's throat. The Alpha twisted, impossibly fast for something so large, and his claws raked across Cade's flank. Blood sprayed. Cade howled and countered, catching Nathaniel's shoulder, teeth sinking deep. They tumbled across the floor, a blur of fur and violence and rage. Claws tore flesh. Teeth found purchase. Blood pooled on concrete. The fight was brutal and beautiful. Two apex predators battling for dominance, for survival, for the future of their kind. Nathaniel was winning. Vincent could see it. Experience over rage, precision over fury. The Alpha moved with economy, every strike calculated, wearing Cade down through 1,000 cuts. Then Cade's eyes flashed toward his remaining rogues, and Vincent saw the decision form. 3 rogues broke from the shadows, attacking Nathaniel from behind. They piled onto him, claws and teeth tearing, violating every sacred law their kind held dear. Nathaniel howled, not in pain, but in fury at the betrayal. The sound shook the warehouse's remaining walls. "No!" Ash screamed. Pack law said outsiders couldn't interfere. That this was sacred ground, combat between alphas that no one else could touch. Vincent had learned that much in the last 72 hours. But Vincent Rossi had never been one for rules. "In my world," Vincent said, raising his Glock and sighting on the nearest rogue, "you break the rules, you pay the price." He squeezed the trigger. Silver round punched through the rogue's skull. "Apparently that's true in yours too." Lucia opened fire from her position on the ground. Broken leg forgotten. Big Joe, Polly, Frankie. All of Vincent's crew lit up the rogues breaking sacred law. And the Silver Blood Pack, seeing tradition violated, joined the fight with savage fury. The warehouse became chaos again. Silver bullets and werewolf claws working in harmony. Two species united against a common enemy. Lucia dragged herself across blood-slicked concrete and put 3 rounds point-blank into a rogue trying to flank Vincent. Sal, caught between human and wolf, fought with savage efficiency that surprised even himself. Cade, seeing his support crumbling and defeat inevitable, shifted back to human form and ran. Not away, but toward Ash. "If I can't rule," Cade roared, silver machete raised, "no one will. I'll kill the air and expose everything. Let the humans hunt you all to extinction." Vincent threw himself between Cade and Ash, taking the machete strike meant for the boy. The blade bit deep into his shoulder, grinding against bone, but Vincent held his ground. His Glock came up, barrel pressed against Cade's chest. "Wrong move," Vincent said, and emptied the magazine. 4 silver rounds, point-blank range. Cade's chest erupted in smoke and flame, the silver burning him from inside. He collapsed, gasping, dying but not dead yet. Supernatural vitality keeping him conscious through agony that would kill a human instantly. Nathaniel emerged from the pile of rogue corpses, bloodied but alive, moving with the inexorable purpose of judgment. He shifted to human form, knelt beside Cade, and without hesitation or mercy, tore out the rogue's throat with his teeth. Cade's eyes went blank. The rogues still standing, maybe 3 of them, saw their leader die and broke. Some scattered into the night. Others dropped to their knees, surrendering to pack law. The battle was over. Vincent's legs gave out, and he collapsed against a shipping container. Blood poured from the machete wound in his shoulder and the claw marks across his chest. Too much blood. He'd seen enough dying men to know the signs. No. Ash shifted to human form and ran to him, small hands pressing against Vincent's wounds. "Don't die. Please don't die. You can't." Nathaniel shifted back to human form. Older now that Vincent could see him clearly, maybe 60, covered in scars that mapped a lifetime of battles. He knelt beside Vincent, golden eyes studying him with an intensity that felt like being dissected. "You broke pack law," Nathaniel said quietly. "Interfered with sacred combat." Vincent coughed, tasting blood. "Yeah, well, I'm not great with rules." Something that might have been a smile flickered across Nathaniel's scarred face. "You protected my son. Risked everything for someone you barely knew. Broke your own codes, your own world's laws, for a child who wasn't even your species." Nathaniel placed his hand over Vincent's chest wounds, and heat flowed from the touch. Not burning, but intense, like sunlight concentrated. "In my culture, such debt must be repaid. I offer you a gift." One question answered truthfully. Whatever you ask, I will tell you without lie or omission. Vincent's vision was fading, darkness creeping in from the edges. But he knew what he needed to know. My brother, Roan, is he okay? Nathaniel closed his eyes, and his hand glowed faintly gold. Vincent felt something, not quite consciousness, more like being touched by something vast and ancient that saw through time and distance. Your brother is alive, Nathaniel said, his voice echoing like it came from somewhere far away. He chose this life, chose the pack. The transformation gave him something he never found in the human world. Purpose, belonging, peace. He found peace you never could. Tears mixed with blood on Vincent's face. Where is he? Watching. Always watching. From the shadows, from the tree lines, from the rooftops of your restaurants. Nathaniel's eyes opened, meeting Vincent's. He's proud of what you've become. Proud that you protected Ash when you had no reason to. Proud that his brother became a good man despite everything. Tell him. Vincent's voice cracked. Tell him I'm sorry. For not finding him. For giving up. He doesn't want your apology. He asks only one thing. Stop looking for him. Let him be free. Let him live the life he chose without the weight of your guilt. Vincent nodded, something breaking and healing simultaneously in his chest. 20 years of wondering, of guilt, of midnight thoughts about what he could have done differently. All of it finally, mercifully resolving. Nathaniel's healing power flowed deeper, mending torn flesh, sealing wounds that should have been fatal. Not turning Vincent, he could feel the distinction, the careful control that repaired without transforming. You'll live, human. You'll carry scars, but you'll live. And you'll remember this night. Remember what you learned about honor and sacrifice. Vincent's vision stabilized, the darkness receding. His wounds still hurt like hell, but the bleeding had stopped. He'd survive. Sirens wailed in the distance. Boston PD, maybe fire trucks, responding to reports of gunfire and explosions. Nathaniel stood, lifting Ash with one arm. You saved me, Ash said, still holding Vincent's hand. You saved all of us. Come, son, Nathaniel said gently. We must leave before the humans arrive with their questions and cameras. Ash resisted, amber eyes wet with tears. What about Vincent? We can't just leave him. He'll be arrested, investigated. He'll be cared for. His people will protect him. Nathaniel looked at Vincent, then at Lucia and the surviving crew members. But our worlds must remain separate. This is his world. We are merely shadows in it. We cannot be seen, cannot be documented, cannot let your authorities know we exist. Vincent forced himself to speak through the pain. Go, kid. Your dad's right. I'll be fine. Tommy will clean this up. He's good at that. Ash leaned down, hugging Vincent with desperate strength. Thank you. For everything. For believing me. For protecting me. For, his voice broke. For being better than you had to be. Stay safe, kid, Vincent whispered. Stay hidden. And maybe check in sometimes. Let me know you're okay. Nathaniel nodded once to Vincent, a gesture of respect between warriors who'd fought on the same side, then shifted to wolf form. Ash did the same, and the silver blood pack melted into the darkness, disappearing through shattered walls and broken doors like smoke dissipating in wind. Vincent watched them go, feeling the absence like a physical thing. Around him, his crew began to move, checking wounds, securing the scene, preparing explanations for the cops who'd arrive any minute. Lucia limped over, her broken leg hastily splinted. "Boss, what the hell do we tell them?" Vincent looked at the warehouse. Blood everywhere, bullet casings, claw marks gouged in concrete, bodies that would turn back to human once they finished dying. Rival gang. Dispute over territory. They had knives, we had guns. Self-defense. And Sal. She gestured to the steel cage where Vincent's second-in-command sat, half-transformed, eyes glowing amber in the darkness. Medical emergency. We get him out before the cops arrive. Tommy knows people. Doctors who don't ask questions. Vincent met her eyes. No one talks about what really happened. Ever. Understand? Lucia nodded. Understood, boss. As sirens grew closer and red and blue lights began to strobe through the warehouse's broken walls, Vincent Rossi sat in the blood and darkness, thinking about monsters and men, about the line between them that had seemed so clear 72 hours ago. That line had blurred tonight. Maybe disappeared entirely. And somehow, Vincent thought as consciousness finally began to slip away, that didn't seem like such a terrible thing. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was a scarred wolf watching from the warehouse's collapsed loading dock. Blue eyes in a wolf's face, filled with something that looked like pride. Then it was gone, and Vincent let himself fall into unconsciousness. Finally, mercifully at peace. Vincent woke to white walls and the sterile smell of antiseptic. His chest ached, a deep bone-level pain that reminded him he was alive. Tommy sat in the chair beside the hospital bed, gray at the temples, looking older than Vincent remembered. "You've been out for 3 days this time," Tommy said, setting down a newspaper. "Doctors say you're healing impossibly fast. They wanted to run tests, but I convinced them you're just stubborn." Vincent tried to sit up, wincing. His chest was wrapped in bandages, but when he touched them, the pain was manageable. Survivable. Outside the window, Boston's skyline stretched across the horizon. Familiar buildings, familiar streets, but somehow it all looked different now. Strange. What's the story? Vincent's voice was rough from disuse. Tommy leaned forward. Warehouse fire. Gang shootout over territory. The Irish trying to move in on your operations. Feds investigated, found nothing useful. Evidence disappeared. Witnesses developed amnesia. Security footage corrupted. He smiled slightly. The pack helped with that part. Turns out werewolves are good at making things disappear. My crew. Loyal. Every single one keeping their mouths shut. Tommy's expression darkened. Sal survived the bite, but he's gone. Disappeared 3 days after the fight. Tracking reports put him in the Maine wilderness. The pack took him in, teaching him how to control it. Vincent closed his eyes, thinking about Sal. 20 years of loyalty, gone in one night. Not dead, but lost to a world Vincent could barely understand. Lucia's recovering, Tommy continued. Broken leg will heal, but she's already asking when you'll be back to work. Says she's got scores to settle. Vincent almost smiled. That sounded like Lucia. A nurse came in to check his vitals, and Vincent caught his reflection in the bathroom mirror as she worked. Scars crisscrossed his chest, some from claws, some from the machete, all of them raised and red and permanent. But he was alive. Changed but alive. The ruthless killer was still there when he looked in his own eyes. The man who'd built an empire on violence and intimidation, who'd made Boston's underworld bow to his will. But something else lived there too now. Purpose beyond power, meaning beyond money, connection to something larger than himself. That night, after the nurses finished their rounds and Tommy left to handle business, Vincent's hospital window slid open. Ash climbed through in wolf form, then shifted to human, wearing actual clothes this time, jeans and a hoodie that looked new. "You're not supposed to be here," Vincent said, but he was smiling. Ash grinned, amber eyes glowing softly in the darkness. "I know. Dad said to stay away until you were stronger. But I had to see you. Make sure you were okay. Kid, I got stabbed and clawed and nearly bled out. Okay, is relative." Vincent shifted in the bed, making room. "But yeah, I'm okay." Ash perched on the edge of the bed, suddenly serious. "Things are changing. The Silver Blood Pack is rebuilding. Other packs are swearing allegiance to Dad. The rogues scattered or surrendered. We're returning to the old territories, re-establishing order." He paused. "But things are different now. Your crew knows about us. You know about us. That's never happened before." Vincent nodded slowly. "And Dad wants to meet with you. Officially. To negotiate terms." Ash's eyes searched Vincent's face. "An alliance. Between your organization and the pack. Unprecedented, probably insane, but possible." Vincent thought about his empire, built on secrets and violence and carefully maintained balances of power. This alliance could strengthen his position. Supernatural allies that his enemies couldn't match or counter. Or it could destroy everything, expose him to threats he didn't understand, drag him deeper into a world where bullets didn't always work. But looking at Ash, alive and healing, growing stronger every day, Vincent knew his answer. "Tell your father I accept." 1 week later, Vincent stood on the porch of the main Safehouse, rebuilt and reinforced, transformed from a death trap into a fortress. Tommy and Lucia flanked him, both armed, both tense. Nathaniel waited with 3 members of his pack council, all in human form, all carrying the weight of centuries in their eyes. They negotiated like equals. Mob Boss and Werewolf Alpha, trading terms that would reshape both their worlds. The Mafia would protect werewolf territories from human encroachment. Developers, hunters. They'd provide cover, false paperwork, legal shields. The pack would eliminate threats to Vincent's organization that conventional methods couldn't touch. Rivals who thought they were untouchable, witnesses who needed to disappear, problems that required supernatural solutions. Certain properties would become neutral zones. sacred ground where both sides could meet safely. Information would be shared, defenses coordinated, operations merged where it made sense. It was unprecedented, impossible, perfect. As they finalized details, Nathaniel said quietly, "My son wishes to spend time in your world, to learn from you." Vincent blinked, surprised. "He's a kid. He should be with his pack, learning from you." "He is Prince of Two Worlds now," Nathaniel said, golden eyes steady. "He saved your life, you saved his. That bond transcends species, transcends our laws. He needs to understand both worlds if he's to lead someday." Ash looked at Vincent with hope blazing in his amber eyes. Vincent was quiet for a long moment, thinking about responsibility, about what it meant to raise a kid, especially one who could turn into a wolf. "I've got a spare room in my penthouse," he said finally. "But there are rules. School, homework, no shifting in public. And you call me if anything happens." Ash's grin could have lit the forest. They established boundaries. Ash would spend full moons with the pack, learning what it meant to be wolf, to be alpha. The rest of the time, he'd stay with Vincent, learning the human world, honor, loyalty, how to navigate a society that would fear him if they knew the truth. Vincent taught him about business, about codes and consequences. Ash taught Vincent about instinct, about trusting senses beyond human limitation, about transformation. It was strange, unconventional, but it worked. Months passed in snapshots. Vincent at his rebuilt restaurant, Ash doing homework at a corner table while bodyguards tried not to stare. Vincent teaching Ash to shoot at a private range, using silver bullets, explaining breath control and trigger discipline. Ash teaching Vincent to track by scent in the Maine woods, patient with Vincent's human limitations. The unlikely family growing stronger. One autumn night, Vincent stood on his penthouse balcony, cigar smoke curling into the Boston sky. In the distance, on a rooftop 3 blocks away, a scarred wolf watched. Blue eyes in a wolf's face. Vincent raised his hand in acknowledgement. The wolf howled, not a threat, but a greeting. Recognition. Pride. Vincent smiled, finally at peace with ghosts he'd carried for 20 years. The wolf vanished into shadows, and Vincent went back inside, where Ash was sprawled on the couch, half asleep over a history textbook, looking like any normal kid. Except for the amber eyes that glowed when he dreamed. Autumn evening, months later, they returned to the main safehouse. Vincent sat on the reinforced porch, fresh cigar between his teeth, watching Ash practice shifting in the clearing. The kid was faster now, more controlled. Wolf to wolf in seconds, barely any pain showing on his face. The silver blood pack watched from the tree line, amber eyes glowing with approval. Protective. Accepting. Tommy joined Vincent on the porch, shaking his head. "Never thought I'd see the day." Vincent Rossi, babysitter to werewolf royalty. "Life's weird, Tommy." Vincent blew smoke into the cooling air. "Best to just roll with it." Ash ran up, caught mid-transition. Half wolf, half human, face elongated but still recognizably the kid Vincent had found dying under his bed months ago. "Vinny, watch this." He shifted perfectly, flawlessly. wolf to human in one smooth motion, no hesitation, no pain. Standing there grinning, proud of himself, Vincent stood applauding. "That's my boy." The word surprised him. My boy, but they felt right. More right than anything had felt in years. In the tree line, amber eyes multiplied as the pack gathered. Watching, approving. Nathaniel stood among them in wolf form, massive and scarred, and Vincent could have sworn the alpha nodded. The Safehouse, once a hideout from death, had become something else entirely. A home, a place where monsters and men found common ground, where a killer learned to protect instead of destroy, where a dying pup taught a dying man how to live again. Vincent Rossi lit a fresh cigar, settling back into his chair. On the table beside him rested his Glock and a silver knife, weapons from both his worlds, symbols of the impossible alliance he'd forged. The monster under his bed hadn't destroyed him. It had saved him. Sometimes the family you find is stranger than anything you could imagine. Sometimes it has fangs and glowing eyes and exists in shadows between human and beast. And sometimes that's exactly what you need. In the distance, a wolf howled. Roan's voice, Vincent knew now, watching over his brother from the life he'd chosen. Ash answered, his young voice carrying through the forest, claiming his place in both worlds. And Vincent Rossi, Boston's most feared mafia boss, guardian to werewolf royalty, bridge between impossible worlds, finally understood what it meant to belong. Blood's still blood, whether it's got fangs or not. But family, real family, the kind you choose and fight for and die for, that transcends species, transcends fear, transcends everything else. Vincent had learned that the hard way, and he wouldn't trade it for anything. Thanks for watching till the very end. If this story moved you, hit like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. I'll be dropping another unforgettable story tomorrow, so make sure you don't miss it.